Hey guys, how are we doing? Crypto Insight UK here, bringing you back another YouTube video. So today we're starting with silver. Why are we starting with silver? Well, if you haven't seen, actually the CME, which is like the futures markets body in the US, essentially, stopped trading this morning because they had overheating in a server room. I think that was the excuse, and it halted trading. I don't know if trading's even back on yet, but 6 hours ago, before like 6 hours before I woke up, it still hadn't been reactivated, and it closed 6 hours before previous to that. I hope that makes sense. I didn't word that very well. When I woke up, it had been closed for 6 hours. There you go. That makes more sense, doesn't it? But silver was trading towards all-time highs when this literal meltdown happened. So let's see. Like, I think that's another thing at the minute that's it's just a thing. Like, it's a crack in legacy financial systems when you've got things like crypto trading 24/7, instant settlement, and then you have things like a server that can halt the whole futures trading for a specific category, or even futures trading generally. It's just kind of crazy that we still live in that world when technology is where it is for us today and the way that we trade. Um, we'll have a little touch on gold, but there isn't too much to report. It's similar to everything else that's going on: the DXY, gold, equities, crypto. It's in this decision-making period, like what's going to happen next. Gold is currently consolidating, making higher lows, and well, ish lower highs from the highs at 4.3. We did think it would cool off from there. We did get that timing pretty right. But whether gold actually continues to set a new all-time high from here or not is a difficult one. 702 is acting as resistance, and right now the 618 is acting as resistance. Um, it's a difficult discussion, honestly, because you have the discussion on the one hand that there's going to be more like capital that's going to flow into the system. For example, like $2,000 per person next summer. The Treasury General account basically being bled back into markets rather than taking liquidity out. The Fed is saying they're stopping QT in December. People are talking about the need for them to expand their balance sheet. And there's discussion on whether there's going to be another cut or not in December. It looks more likely there is again going to be again soon. It's both sides of the coin, as pardon the pun, can be easily argued here, and that's where we've been for a while. I do think crypto is I don't want to say lagging in terms of time, but lagging in terms of price action. And I do think there is a leg up for crypto. I don't want to blur that opinion. Like, I do think that is what happens next for crypto. But in the short term, I did want to bring your attention to this. Unfortunately, for this last little rally here for Bitcoin, open interest has been bleeding out as price action has been going up, and funding has basically stayed neutral. Like, longs and shorts have taken over each other in terms of funding, meaning that like it was kind of like a negative symbol that if open interest goes down and price goes up, because it could just be like shorts closing or longs closing, or it's just leverage closing generally as price starts to increase. You want to see open interest rise and price rise at the same time, and normally it's like a bit like maths in a way. If you have like a negative and a negative is a positive, and a positive and a positive is a positive, but a positive and a negative is a negative. So that's just something to take into consideration. It shows weakness essentially, and it could mean that we revisit the lows, which in turn wouldn't be awful for the trade that we've discussed. Zcash is close to my entry, and again, look, I don't know if this support will hold. That's the issue that we have when you play in like range trading like this, is you have to presume that the range lows will hold. Obviously, we've coupled that up with trading different and liquidity pools, but we still don't know for sure. Like, we're making probabilistic guesses of where ranges are going to hold. So we just quickly look at Zcash just for the sake of this discussion, because I just want to just chat to you guys a bit today. If we look where the liquidity is, we actually wicked through pretty much all of it yesterday. With our wick down, took all that strong liquidity. There has been a little bit more that's built below. So are we going to come, just take that, hopefully wick into our position, then leave what's below, and then hopefully head higher? That's the discussion. It's like, do we wick the lows of this previous range? Maybe. So is the stop loss too tight? Potentially. But the question is that then becomes is where's the best entry? And the best entry, in my opinion, is the range low. Like, are we going to double tap these lows, a slightly higher low? Yes, we could come lower. Maybe I do give us a little bit more space on the stop loss, but then you give up more of your risk to reward. But then with a 15R, maybe we can give a bit more of that up. So that maybe will be something that I'll reevaluate after this video, after discussing that openly with you guys. But the entry is roughly in the right place. I'm not unhappy with that. The stop loss, maybe I'll adjust based on how much risk to reward and how probable I think it is that we bounce here. The probability in the bounce does depend somewhat on Bitcoin. And the other thing though with Bitcoin, when you get to structures like this thing's fucking tricky. Like, I'm not joking in a way that I say this thing grinds up like this, and you see things like open interest bleeding out, and you see, oh, we're struggling to break through recent highs that we're probably going to roll over and continue the trend. It's not always the case, and that's why Bitcoin and crypto is so tricky, and that's why spot is just so good for like longer term, because you can definitely make the argument to be bearish again here and continue to roll over after not creating new highs. But you just know what crypto's like. It's not like equities in the sense of this thing can easily just, so there's the low and there's a high, sorry, and there's a lower high, and that would just continue the downtrend that we've been in this whole time, just creating a continuation of lower highs. But this thing, as you guys know, can very easily just pop up here, bounce, pop up again, taking the liquidity all the way up to, like, say 100k, which is like here, and then start maybe to challenge this area. Then everyone's going to be like, oh, I don't know whether I'm long or short, and then it can do some devious stuff. Like, it could come down to this previous high, and everyone's like, yep, that was it, the retracement's in, and then boom, off we go towards the liquidity and marching higher, as we discussed. It's a difficult one, and that's why the risk reward entries at these low positions, and if you've got the cash and you've got the bollocks, when it's in extreme fear, it's a good place to be adding, because of how it's just volatility essentially in this asset class. Like, I think it's easily manipulated as one, because it's low market cap realistically. Like, just even if people just spot dump on the market, like, it does move price, and then low volatility, if you can hold through the pain, then you probably do well in the long term. And that's essentially how I've made money in the crypto space over time. There's not too much more to report in terms of open interest. The other thing that I wanted to touch on was ETH. I think ETH looks pretty strong here. It has managed to violate at least its first lower high, just wicking above that. But we also found ourselves bouncing in this key area of support that I had drawn out. Showed you guys this, and then if I go to the 3-day time frame, we got really close to the oversold area on the 3-day, right into support, and the 3-day oversold previously has marked significant lows. And even if it's not quite hit the oversold, in those periods, it's been pretty much the low as well before a significant rally, and I'll just highlight them for you. That's here, and it's also here, and that's what we just reached. Look, we reached the 3-day just quite close to the low. So I'd expect a bit of a relief rally, at least to the 3,500 level for ETH, which is, well, it's like a 15% move from here. And then you've got the discussion: do we then break out of this wedge pattern again and start to try and head to the upside? But that's something that I definitely would take into consideration. If that happens, we're obviously looking at Bitcoin dominance. I do think Bitcoin dominance continues to roll over, even though others don't. I'm not saying that we couldn't squeeze higher, because there is that discussion for something like this to happen. But my base case is this cycle we come down to this 33 to 35 level, or 31 to 35% level for Bitcoin. That isn't changing. The intricacies on whether we push up again first and then pull down, I genuinely don't know. I am in more of the camp that we do continue down from here, but again, I wouldn't be surprised if we went higher. Another reason why spot is so good, because look, if Bitcoin takes some liquidity and altcoins don't push as hard as Bitcoin, or altcoins bleed out a little bit against Bitcoin, then so be it. We're holding anyway, because my base case is that we do continue down for Bitcoin dominance at some point, and then altcoins will see that liquidity rotation. Now, it's not given, that's my opinion. Another positive is we've actually seen Flare rally in a bit, which is a bit of a wild one for the last like few months of price action. It's not felt great, but we could be on to printing our 6th green day in succession. Again, we are looking to try and violate these local highs, or you could say it's a local high, but these swing high, I guess, because we did bounce, we came up, we did break, sort of break structure, we didn't quite. We basically want to be closing above like 188 for some positive price action, and then we can really start to head towards the bottom of this wedge again. And as I discussed, 3 taps to the wedge on both sides. The wedge pattern is complete. Where do we break out now? I would hope to the upside, and I think to the upside, obviously. XRP, I want to actually discuss XRP, Bitcoin, ETH. There's been a little bit of a development, but where is it? And then here, XRP, ETH. XRP, ETH is back down at that support level that we discussed yesterday. I said, look, if we come back to this area, this is the most likely area that I'd like to see us bounce. It'd be great for continuation. Similar with XRP Bitcoin, I already highlighted it because I was looking at it this morning. We've come back into this cluster of consolidation. Would be a decent area for us to bounce if we're going to continue higher on this specific move here. And the same with XRP dominance. We're right in that area. Would like to see us bounce and continue from here. Like, obviously, I'm not saying that it's going to happen. I'm just saying this is where the most like bullish area for us to bounce would be, and it's taken us through the 4 hourly on them again. This is Bitcoin, XRP Bitcoin. The other thing that I think is quite interesting is I've been looking at XRP ETH today. ETH Bitcoin today, and it came back up to this resistance line, and then since, yes, it has rejected, but not like as steeply as maybe previously, and it's right now also in this support area of the consolidation before the push up to test this level. So you could say that I would say it's probably more like that. You could say that ETH against Bitcoin is holding quite a key level right here. I think I'd say this is like weak support. But let's see if we can get that. If we can get like some strength to come for ETH and to see us push, re-challenge this descending trend line. If that happens, then you can see like the cascading trigger effect for Bitcoin dominance. Altcoins probably start to pop off. Well, the thing that is quite important for alts is you are seeing some green come in across the board when it's quite negative out there generally. Obviously, I've bid the privacy narrative. I do think that has at least one more leg up. I've been watching things like Rec Token has been gaining a lot, but it did have a bit of like a liquidity issue here, so it did lose a lot of market cap, and then it's regained quite a bit because they had some DeFi issue. ENA is the other one. I haven't actually bought any ENA yet, and I'm just in 2 minds whether to or not, or whether this continues to set a lower low here. I find it hard discussion. I do think ENA revisits at least back to all-time highs, because this is quite a clear range. Just 4 minutes, just whether we're at the bottom. So let's say that's the top of the range. You could pretty much say that's the bottom, or you could argue that that's the bottom there, and then this is just a deviation. But whether that is the low for this cycle, or not this cycle, but this push down, again, this is another reason why you can discuss that it could be. Basically, the RSI's broken trend here, or is close to breaking trend. Like, you could say maybe it's broken that downtrend. Price action hasn't yet. Price action's still looking like it could have some more chopping to go. If I was going to bid ENA, if I wasn't in a position, and I'm not, and I was looking to bid it, I've actually bid Zcash, as you guys know. I would be bidding like on this trend line, 22 cent flat if you look, well, 22.79 if you're looking to use leverage, and maybe just below it, just in case there's a wick to 21.81. That's probably where I'll be putting my bids in, and then stop losses below the low at like 18.9. And then you've got quite a big, again, risk to reward target there. If you say, let's say you bid like quite a, you're going for the most aggressive position. It's that short position that I've just put in there. Don't know what just happened there. I'm going to put a long position in. Why is it doing that? Calm down. You know what I mean? Taking us to minus fucking 1,000 for some reason. Anyway, to the top of the range. Nice there. Let's say we bid 21.4, and we have our, oh, this is a wick. Has that just appeared, or has that always been there? That must be the October 10th wick. But I would say that I'd probably have it like that if I was going to bid. Be below this wick as my maybe give it a bit more than that, just in case we wick down. So it gives you a 36 to 1 risk to reward, which again is a bloody good trade. You could obviously start to scale in and scale out to take some of the risk away from this. So you could start scaling in during this fair value gap here. If you were going to trade ENA, just discussing like how I look at trades and how I open trades doesn't mean you have to do the same thing. You could start scaling in into this and have your max position in by 21.5 if we do get that, because you're not guaranteed to take the lows at this range. You look at Bitcoin, etc., like we have for the start of this video, and then you can start to scale out. If you say, for example, where's my bloody pen? If we bounce from anywhere towards like these highs, you could start to take some profit there. You could take a little bit more there, a little bit more there, a little bit more here, and then have like the top of the range as your full take profit. But if you scale in, you've got quite a few different areas to scale out of profits that could act as resistance. The other line of the discussion is that yes, this is a range. However, we have actually made a slightly lower low here, or maybe equal lows. But again, the October 10th wick is definitely a lower low after making a lower high. So yes, it could be a range, but we might not have the strength to reach back to the high of the range, as indicated by the previous strength of this move. That's up for debate. I don't know whether that is going to be a factor or not. We also have to remember that a token like ENA is new this cycle, so it's going to be releasing some of its supply onto the market, which brings downward pressure. On one hand, on the other hand, it probably means they increase their marketing, etc., because they want to raise the price so the people who have got the illiquid supply of tokens at the minute that starts to become liquid can realize that at a higher price. So it's always a discussion like that with new tokens. There are always things to consider. But they're the sort of thought processes that I go through if I'm going to take a trade on something, where and why I'm taking profits in those positions, and what I'm considering as to why and when. I didn't really plan for this video to go in that direction, but I think it's an important thing to discuss. Like, I talk to you guys about why I think things, how I think about things, and what I think comes next. So basically, that's all for today's video. I'm going to be writing the newsletter now. I'm going to discuss what I think is going to happen in the future and why I think that's going to happen. I'd love for you guys to check out the newsletter. It's completely free. Link in the description to this video. We have 3,300 weekly readers, and I appreciate all of you. Thank you very much who read the newsletter and also who tune into my YouTube. It means a lot. With that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to trade on any leverage, I've got a link to WEX and MEXC in the description below. As always, nothing that I say is financial advice, but I do hope you enjoyed. If you've got any questions, let me know in the comment section. Peace up, A-Town down, as Crypto Insight UK would say.